It is, of course, completely presumptuous of me to dare to write and broadcast a video entitled Message to the Christian Churches, but I'm going to do it anyway because I have something to say and because that something needs to be said.
These are gems, bro. This is like has to be some high-level performance art at this point. Like, this guy cannot be real. You cannot be real. You cannot be saying, I have something to say, and that something needs to be said. Like, you have to preface your own criticism.
I've been speaking to and watching and listening to audiences all over the Western world for the past 4 years, in person and in virtual form, and have learned a few things in consequence. It all started in some sense with the lectures I did on Genesis in 2017. My family and I took a risk and rented out a theater in Toronto on the off chance that there might be an audience for what might be described as a psychological approach to our ancient stories. And lo and behold, and miracle of miracles, there was. I completed 15 or so lectures walking through the first biblical book, sold out the theater, and attracted, surprisingly, millions of viewers. Christians, Jews, Muslims, and atheists. And most of the people who attended live, and the majority of those who watched online, were young men. That is not a phenomenon that can be easily accounted for. But let me try. Now, in the West, because of the weight of historical guilt that is upon us, a variant of the sense of original sin, in a very real sense, and because of a very real attempt by those possessed by what might be described as unhelpful ideas to weaponize that guilt.
Let me pause you for a second there, because I'm guessing that the intonation here is that guilt is a bad thing, and that's not necessarily true. If you live in an immoral world and you take part in immoral actions, you should feel guilty about that, at least a little bit. You should, if somebody's coming to threaten you and threaten to kill your family, usually in the form of some government entity, then you should be afraid. You should have fear, because fear is the biggest motivator of mankind, in my opinion. You could either say that or pussy, but instead of addressing masculinity in these terms, there's this very defensive sort of defensive, like, we're being attacked, almost feminist, basically feminist type of quarrel that Peterson and his audience seem to have. It strikes me as very incel-ish and not productive, and not, there's no game being spoken here. There's no truth to it. It's just like, oh, you have problems with women? Let's give this a shot. You know, you're not guaranteed to succeed in your goal, but you want a stable relationship? This is what you do. You want some side game? This is what you do. Like, there are options to the way we live our lives in reality, but not according to the autistic Riddler over here.
Our young people face a demoralization that is perhaps unparalleled. This is particularly true of young men, although anything that devastates young men will eventually do the same to young women. And that, in this era of antinatalism and equally reprehensible nihilism, is precisely the point.
Dude,
when they are
this
children,
is the most nihilist motherfucker I've ever seen talk and be given this level of a platform. For real, like, he's a deconstructionist thinker. There's nothing constructive in the way he speaks, meaning that his sentences usually have no point to them at all. They just kind of ramble and blend into each other, and there's no exclamation. There's nothing solid to leave you with and be like, oh wow, that was a fresh and unique take on a subject that I'd never heard before. It's just like, well, 2 + 2 = 4. Well then, we the communists say that's not true. Well, what makes it not true? And so we're gonna go on down the fucking rabbit hole of, like, why. I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm not trying to do a fucking JP impression. This is like a real delve into why this man is so revered, and I can't understand it. It fails to compute.
Boys are hectored for their toy preferences, which often include toy weapons such as guns, and their more boisterous playing style, as boys require active rough and tumble play, even more than girls, for whom it is also a necessity. When in grade school, boys are admonished, shamed, and controlled in a very similar manner by those who think that play is unnecessary, particularly if it's competitive, and who value a docile, harmless obedience above all.
If you have an issue with this, and I do as well, then maybe we should talk about the education system as a whole. Possibly defunding it, so I'm not responsible for your fucking mishap, for your geological catastrophe that fell out of your cunt.
Shades of Dolores Umbridge. Following all that, because that's not enough, even when pursued assiduously for total demoralization, is the inculcation of an extremely damaging ideology, which essentially consists of 3 accusations.
Okay, so there are 3 accusations to the philosophy that in his own head he opposes, but that nobody has explicitly come out and say this is his retelling of the leftist Marxist ideology. Here we go.
1. Human culture, particularly in the West, is best construed as an oppressive patriarchy, motivated by the desire, willingness, and ability to use power, defined as the compulsion of others against their will, to attain what are purely selfish and self-serving ends. This is true at every level of analysis. Marriage is akin to slavery, friendship to exploitation, political disagreement to war, and business arrangements to deception and theft.
Okay, so he's playing a character here, I assume. When he says, this is true at every level of analysis, is he saying it as himself or as this conjured up supervillain in his head? It's confusing. It's legitimately like he doesn't frame the argument in a way that's, like, understandable.
Accusation number 2. Human activity, particularly that undertaken in the West, is fundamentally a planet-despoiling enterprise. The human race is a threat to the ecological utopia that existed before us and that could hypothetically exist in our absence.
What does this have to do with Christianity?
We might well be construed even as a cancer that threatens the very viability of the complex systems that make up the ecosystem of the earth that shelters and supports us.
This does sound totally nihilist. This sounds straight up metal. This is like intro to emo. This is the most depressing speech I've ever heard in my life.
We are facing a Malthusian catastrophe of overpopulation and biosphere degradation. And we have to place extreme limits on our wants, even our needs, so that survival itself, even in a much reduced form, can be guaranteed.
I don't care. I don't think most people care. They want to survive. They want to live their lives. But I think the level of philosophy and, like, free thinking, bro, that you're at, it doesn't even occur to most people to be this fucking pampered and elitist. Like, this guy's never picked up a shovel in his fucking life, and I think he should be forced to, and I can't wait for him to, like, wind up in a fucking FEMA camp or something, because he said the N-word on Twitter. It's just like, oh, no, this is being oppressed.
Accusation number 3.
Although he wouldn't last a day. He wouldn't last a fucking day in a prison camp, man. He would just fall apart. He'd be like, disintegrate the instant he steps foot. You wouldn't even have to gas him. You know what I'm saying?
The prime contributor both to the tyranny that makes up the oppressive patriarchy and structures all of our social interactions, past and present, and the unforgivable despoiling of our beloved Mother Earth is damnable male ambition.
This is theater. This is like high school theater.
Competitive and dominating, power-mad, selfish, exploitative, raping and pillaging. You might think that I'm overstating the case. Think again, sunshine. We in the
my god, this guy. Oh, this guy. Oh man, this guy's off his bloody rocker. This guy's lost it. This guy's losing. Oh my god, I feel sorry for him. This guy should be in a padded cell, dude. This guy's a fucking supervillain. I don't even fucking shit.
And it is precisely those young men who are deeply conscientious, capable of guilt and regret, who have come to believe in pain.
I understand I'm wasting my time here and my brain cells are committing suicide. I'm watching a man break down mentally in real time. It's like, this guy is the human embodiment of a dry erase marker. It's not good for you, man. Lay off the fucking glue, man. Maybe he should get back on the benzos. At least maybe he'll start making sense again. Because, like, I remember reading 12 Rules of Life, and while it was the most basic, like, preschool level self-help book I've possibly ever read, it did have valid points by default. Like, clean your room. It's like, no shit. Now he joins Ben Shapiro to do his fucking little talk show or whatever. And it's clear he has ever since his recovery, he's mentally destabilized to the point where nobody can make heads or tails of what he's saying. So it kind of makes me feel sorry for him. It's like, wow, this guy's such a clown at this point for the right wing. It's just tragic. It's tragic.
But something that literally could not be farther from the truth. And something that distant from the truth comes from a place that cannot be distinguished from hell.
Like, at its core, this is your typical reactionary. This is like, the society's changing and I don't like it. You could say that. You could just be honest straight up and say, society's changing and I don't like it. Fuck Muslims, fuck LGBT, fuck everyone I don't like. Goodbye. And that would be a valid opinion. Seriously, like, why don't you just fucking say, I hate Marxism? Like, okay, cool. Why do you hate Marxism? Because I want, like, property and stuff. But no, those would be the words of an honest conservative. And Jordan Peterson is anything but. He is a grifter through and through. He's a fucking, he is a Rubik's Cube of indecision. He's a mush-mouthed fucking subsimian weirdo.
The Christian church is there to remind people, young men included, and perhaps even first and foremost, that they have a woman to find, a garden to walk in, a family to nurture, an ark to build, a land to conquer, a ladder to heaven to build, and the utter terrible catastrophe of life to...
When have you ever built anything in your life? Besides maybe a block of Legos. As an adult. When have you ever built anything? That fucking pile of logs. Oh, real masculine symbol. Did you do that yourself? Or was that set up for you by your studio props?
Invite the young men back. Say, literally, to those young men, you are welcome.
So this is the message. This is his only criticism of Christianity. Or, excuse me, the Christian church, because Christianity is no longer a set of beliefs. It's just this institution that we must worship, of course. Because that's really what the Christian view, the modern Christian view is. And that's tied with white supremacy in many ways. It is tied with, oppressive forces that oppress all of us. In America, at least, the class system is based purely on the illusion of separation between church and state, when in fact the church basically controls the state in every facet. That's
if no one else wants what you have to offer, we do. We want to call you to the highest purpose of your life. We want your time and energy and effort and your will and your goodwill. We want to work with you to make things better, to produce life more abundant for you and for your wife and children and for your community.
Last I checked, the vast majority of Christian churches nowadays They're either fucking mega churches or who accept every person of every background because they just want their fucking money. Or there's some fucking backwoods clique of racists, of, deplorables, swamp people. I'm not saying they're all bad, but that's how society has designated them, literally. And I'm not talking about like the Hillary Clinton. I'm talking about like, no, conservatives have done this to these people. These Christians have kept these people down in chains, in poverty, in the mental slavery that is religion and theism.
And we have our problems in the Christian church. We are moribund and sometimes...
Are you part of the Christian church? Which church are you a part of, Jordan? The Church of the Daily Wire?
Far too often corrupt and sometimes deeply so. We are outdated, as are all institutions with their roots in the dead, but still often wise past. So join us. We'll help fix you up, and you can help fix us up. And together, we'll aim up. And here's a message to those young men skeptical about such things. What else do you have? You can abandon the churches in your cynicism and disbelief. You can say to yourself, narcissistically and solipsistically, the church does not express what I believe properly. Who cares what you believe? Guys?
Wow, you really sold me on that one, Jordy. You really sold me. If I was an atheist if I was like a hardcore 13-year-old emo atheist teenager writing on his hands in his room, jacking off to scat porn, I would see this guy and immediately be like, you know what? This guy's really talking some sense. I gotta go to church tomorrow. I mean, isn't that what this is his audience, right? His audience is young, disaffected men, and I get it. That is a real issue. But, like, come on, man. You're literally, who cares what you believe? Yeah, that's how you reel people in. This guy needs to read about the law of attraction. He's using the law of repulsion, because that's what he is. He's a fucking snake. He's repulsive as shit. This guy's as appealing as a colonoscopy.
What if it was incumbent upon you and vital to your health and willingness even to live, to rescue your dead father from the belly of the beast, where he has always resided?
This is mental illness, man. I don't know how else to say it. Like, he's living this fucking fairy tale. We're gonna rescue your dead father from the belly of the beast. Your father, if your father's dead, then he's fucking dead. Okay, sorry, kid, you lost. Like, what? Fuck. So in Jordan's fractured eggshell mind, he's going to take an adolescent boys and shit, which I know the churches really love. The point that he's making, that the churches have somehow rejected young boys. The church wouldn't exist without young boys because they need the fucking adrenochrome. They need young boys because who else would they rape on a daily basis? I mean, I'm just speaking facts, dog. Out of all the things you could criticize about the churches, he conveniently leaves out the pedophilia part. Is that better than a kid telling his parents he wants to be trans? Like, really, let's be honest here. I mean, this guy's just destroying himself. He is like this. You're seeing a man in mental freefall right here. And I don't have to tear Jordan Peterson down. Like, this is not I'm not in the owning business. This is a self-own. These people do it to themselves. And I'm merely showing you what can happen when you adopt this highfalutin God complex of Jordan Peterson. This is sad, but it is normal. These people, they do exist. They actually think that, like, it's their way or the highway. You see them all throughout life. And, what can you do? You just got to keep going on and find your frequency, find your fucking higher self or whatever, your gut. I'm sorry to subject you to this. I know I'm losing subs. I don't give a shit. Let's rock on. Let's get shit done. Let's stop listening to these charlatans. Stop giving them your money. Fuck the church. Fuck the state. I'm out.